First, ahead of your trip to Kenosha, Wisconsin tomorrow, last week your running mate, Senator Harris, said that the officer who shot Jacob Blake, based on what she has seen, should be charged. Do you agree with her, and do you also believe the same for the officers who were involved in the death of Breonna Taylor?
I think we should let the judicial system work its way. I do think there's a minimum need to be charged, the officers, and as well as Breonna Taylor. And I might add, by the way, I think what happened in Portland, where one of the Trump guys riding along in vans inciting response is shooting rubber bullets, I guess, or paintballs. Apparently there was someone shot by someone in the crowd with a bullet killed. I think that person should meet the legal requirements that whatever that calls for. We should be investigated, and it should follow through on what needs to be done. Let the judicial system work. Let's make sure justice is done.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Yeah.
On this visit to Kenosha tomorrow, local Democratic officials, including the governor, had previously discouraged President Trump from visiting. And just yesterday, the president of the local NAACP said he didn't want to see either of the candidates, including yourself, visit, that this is such a sensitive situation in the city. Why is now the right time for you to go to Kenosha, and what do you hope to accomplish tomorrow?
Well, I have we've spoken to all the leaders up there, and although I have an outstanding call with the governor, we dealt with the staff, because, and there's been overwhelming requests that I do come, because what we want to do is we got to heal, we got to put things together, bring people together. And so my purpose in going will be to do just that, to be a positive influence on what's going on, talk about what need be done, and try to see if there's a beginning of a mechanism to bring the folks together. We have to heal. This is about making sure that that we move forward. And so I've gotten advice from sitting members of the Congress and the Senate as well to go, and that I should go. And I'm not going to do anything other than meet with and meetings with community leaders, as well as business people and other folks in law enforcement, and to see, start to talk about what has to be done. I'm not going to tell Kenosha what they have to do, but we have to do together. The idea that we are saying, the president's encouraging people to retreat to their corners and keep this moving is just a mistake. I've spent my whole life, including in this city you're in right now, bringing people together, bringing the community and police officers together, bringing business leaders and civic leaders together. And so that's my purpose in going.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. One of the things that I've heard a lot from voters across the country is that a lot of them are worried and concerned about some of the ongoing violence we've seen in cities in this country, including the situation in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where you're headed. I'm curious, obviously you are not president now and Donald Trump is, but I'm curious, if you were president, what would you do to ensure that people are kept safe in situations like these?
First of all, I wouldn't incite violence. I'd condemn it when it occurred. I would move to, look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable women and men. They pin on that shield every morning, and they have a right to go home that night safely. The vast majority. But just those who are not good cops, all the police I've dealt with my whole life, and I've been dealing with, I've gotten overwhelming support from law enforcement through my whole career. They're the ones that want to get rid of the bad cops even more than anybody else does, because it reflects on them, number one. Number two, I would make sure everybody understood, if I were president, that any violence, protesting is a right and free speech is a right. But to engage in violence, burning, looting, and the rest in the name of protesting is wrong. And the persons should be held accountable for their actions. And so what I'd be doing is I'd be bringing people together in the White House right now. I'd be having that police commission set up. I'd have law enforcement at the table. I'd have the community at the table. I'd have people and saying, how do we get through this? What do we do to deal with this? Because I believe the vast majority of the community writ large, as well as law enforcement, want to straighten things out, not inflame things. But this president keeps throwing gasoline in the fire every place he goes. I noticed, and I didn't watch much of it, but I watched the reports from all of you, not all, from the press. And, when he was asked about what should be done with regard to a young man shot in the back 7 times in front of his children, I didn't hear much of anything come from him. What should we be doing about it? And he went down the line. So I wish he'd take responsibility. As much as he'd like to be running against somebody else, he's running against me, Joe Biden. And the fact is that he is not acting very responsibly.
And on the fact that you're traveling to Wisconsin at all, I believe this is only the 3rd time in the last few months since the onset of the pandemic that you'll be on a plane. You've talked about how you want to make sure you follow all the advice of your doctors in terms of campaigning safely. But the question we keep hearing from voters, from others, is why aren't you out there more? You may be aware the president was calling into question your campaign schedule today. How far are you willing to push the envelope of what's safe in order to get your message out and to be among the voters, speak to them directly?
Well, I think my message is getting out based on what all the polling data shows, and the millions of people who've watched what I've had to say and the circumstance in which I've said it. But I would like to get out more. But I think a president has a responsibility to set examples, set the right example for how to get out. Not go out and not wear a mask, and not to have large crowds of people standing next to one another not wearing masks, not being the potential cauldron for significant outbreaks of COVID. And so what I've done is I've met with, via what I did this morning with the medical experts. And so we've worked out a protocol where how I get in the plane, what kind of plane I get on, how it's sanitized, how I engage people. It's like when I'm engaging all of you everywhere I go. It's always at a safe distance, and everybody's wearing masks. And the vast majority of people that I'm meeting with that come into my home and staff and the like, they're all tested as well. So I'm just trying to set the example. Wearing the protective gear, a mask, which I have with me. I'm able at this distance to take it off, number one. Number two, making sure that we proceed in a way with adequate social distancing and do it the right way.
You talked today about reopening schools. Wanted to ask you about something you said last week about the potential of having to shut down the economy again. You were asked if you'd be willing to shut it down if your health experts advise you to do so, and you said, quote, "I will be prepared to do whatever it takes," and that you would listen to the scientists. But I'm curious how you would do that at a federal level, and how you would balance that call to shut down potentially if you had economic advisors saying, you do this again, you could plunge the country into an even deeper economic crisis.
Well, look, I know you're tired of hearing me say this. I've been saying it since last January. The idea that you're going to be able to get the economy back on track without getting COVID under control is completely counterintuitive. It's not there. It can't happen. So unless we're able to deal with the disease and drastically cut its impact on people's confidence of being able to either go to work or walk into a business or do business, then it doesn't matter a lot. There is going to be no need, in my view, to be able to shut down the whole economy. I got asked by David Muir a question, if I was asked to shut everything down. I took that as a generic question, am I going to follow the science? I am going to insist, and I insist now without any authority, that every responsible person in this country, when they're out in public or not with a cohort that they have lived with because they know they haven't spread it to your husband, wife, etc., that they wear a mask, and keep socially distanced. You can take a mask off when you're 12, 15 feet away, but I would really, really make the case. And by the way, when I find these folks talking about my freedom, I talk about patriotism. Why do you wear a mask? To protect your neighbor. to keep someone else from getting sick and maybe dying. I call that patriotic. This is the United States of America. Every generation has made sacrifices to help others in moments of crises.
But so you don't see, you had suggested there would be some kind of a federal mandate about masks, and now you're saying
No,
you would encourage people?
here's, what I suggested was, I would ask every person in authority. There's a question whether or not a president, under the Constitution, could mandate
Right.
everyone wear a mask. And remember, all during the primary, I'd have a lot of people telling me I would, by executive order, do. I'm a constitutionalist. You know, you can't do things the Constitution doesn't allow you the power to do. What I would be doing is putting as much pressure as I could on every governor, every senator, every mayor, every county executive, every local official, and everyone in business, putting pressure on them to say, what you're doing is irresponsible. Make sure you wear a mask and maintain social distancing. And the vast majority of the American people accept that notion.
And last quickly, they announced the format and the moderators of the presidential debates today. NBC's Kristen Welker batting cleanup for that last presidential debate. Is there anything, you've said you'll participate, is there anything that could dissuade you from participating, and how have you begun to prepare?
Well, I've begun to prepare by going over what the president has said, the multiple lies he's told. What I'd love to have is a crawler at the bottom of the screen, a fact checker, you know, when we speak. If we really wanted to do something, I think that would make a great, great debate if everything both of us said was instantly fact-checked by an agreed-to group of people out there that we move forward. But that probably wouldn't get very far in the debate. No, I'm looking forward to debating the president, and I'm going to lay out as clearly as I can what I think we have to do to bring this country back and build it back better. And I'm looking forward to the debate.